I'm I'm feeling grateful and excited and also feeling my heart beating a little bit for whatever reason, no matter how much I facilitate or teach or connect in group spaces, sometimes I still feel those flutters of nervousness at the beginning. So some of you may be able to relate to that. And if you'd like to, just an invitation before I share a few thoughts, to take a deep breath or two together, if that feels right for your nervous system in this moment. Thank you. So, as you know, I'm Allison or Allie, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And right now, I'm actually calling in. Normally, for those of you who've sat with me before, I'm calling in from the East Coast, but today I'm calling in from Palo Alto, California, where I'm visiting some beloved cousins. So it feels like a real gift to be here with you on Valentine's Day, or this is my preferred alternative, Palentine's Day, this chance to come together in loving community as meditative pals, supporting each other's heart development along the way. So this week's Parsha, this week's Torah portion is Yitro, and it is quite a portion. In it, God gives the Israelites the Aseret HaDevarim, the Ten Commandments. And instead of focusing on that for this brief time together, I'd like to focus on a moment early on in the Parsha, pre the Ten Commandments, and what we can glean from this moment that often gets overlooked. So Yitro, or Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, or Moshe, he suddenly arrives on the scene and checks out what's going on and notices, wow, Moshe is doing a lot. And he's doing a lot on his own. And so Yitro says, Moshe, maybe it would be valuable to reconsider this. Have you considered asking other people to support you, asking other people to help you, making this uh, adjudication situation more of a communal effort? And Moshe considers it and wisely decides to listen. Yitro keeps emphasizing to him, it's too exhausting, it's too wearying to go about life, especially a life full of communal leadership, alone. So recognizing that we need each other, it's both a key theme of Yitro and of Judaism more broadly. Why are Jews expected to form a minyan, a quorum of 10 people, in order to recite certain prayers and engage in specific rituals? Because we're not meant to go at life alone. We need each other. And then why are we encouraged to practice Bikor Cholim, visiting and offering support to those experiencing illness in body, mind, heart, or spirit? Because we're not meant to go through the trials and tribulations, sorrows and challenges of life alone. We need each other. And then there's the mitzvah, the commandment, to show up to a wedding and contribute to the joy of the occasion. And the list goes on. One of my favorite wisdom nuggets from writer and activist James Baldwin, and it's one I've been returning to frequently these days, is this one. The longer I live, the more deeply I learn that love, whether we call it friendship or family or romance, is the work of mirroring and magnifying each other's light. Gentle work, steadfast work, life-saving work in those moments when life and shame and sorrow occlude our own light from our view. But there is still a clear-eyed, loving person to beam it back. In our best moments, we are that person for each other. So near the end of the first meditation retreat I attended that Rebecca mentioned in my bio, and that was a retreat that was full of realizations of just how harsh and painfully self-critical my own inner landscape can be. The teachers guiding the retreat, they said, okay, we're moving towards the end of this week together. And we'd like you to quietly walk around this space, walk around this room, pause periodically, and make eye contact with fellow retreat participants. And over the past week, we hadn't been speaking, we hadn't been making eye contact, we hadn't been initiating interactions. And each of us had become much, much more sensitized than when the retreat began because of all the practice we'd been doing. And so, as we began finding our way through the room and silently connecting, within a few moments, my eyes filled with tears because each time I made eye contact, it was as if I could sense the other person's unique combination of fragility and strength, of love and courage, of wholehearted and beautifully imperfect humanness. And at the same time, I felt seen in a way that brought me to tears as well. This sense of being seen as someone who is doing the best I can. And there was a moment of recognizing, oh, I'm part of, as Baldwin puts it, a web of mirroring and magnifying each other's light. This is one of the main reasons we come together as a community to meditate. And so let's move into some practice individually and collectively, surrounded by each other's compassion, commitment, kavanah, or intentionality, honoring that being in community like this can help us cut through the noise of distraction, self-judgment, shame, perfectionism, so that we can really, I was going to say connect, but it's more of a reconnection, a return, an act of tshuva to the light that each of us is here to emanate. In this moment, you might make some adjustments to your posture. Maybe there's a bit of facial yoga. You might also shake things out if that feels right. And I'll be guiding us through for the next 10 or 15 minutes. And it feels important to name. And if you've heard me say this in the past, may you hear it through fresh ears. It's important to name that when we practice, at times things can come up that feel beyond our range of resilience or that are surprisingly intense. And know and remember that you are in choice in those moments. You can open your eyes if they're closed. You can sip some water. You can shake things out. And that's not being a bad meditator. It's quite the opposite. It's honoring with compassionate awareness what's here and responding with care. So if you'd like to, you might just close your eyes or soften your gaze, doing whatever supports you in turning inward. Sensing into this web of meditators that each of us is contributing to. And taking your seat in the midst of this web. You might sense wherever your body is connected to the chair or the cushion or the floor. Maybe noticing there are any parts of your body experiencing tension or contraction, and giving them permission to be as they are, or perhaps to soften if that's available. Nothing to force, nothing to effort through. Just this moment in a distracted world of courageously and lovingly choosing to pause, slow down, turn inward. And you might, for a moment or longer, rest a hand on the heart or a hand on the belly or both, expressing gratitude to yourself for carving out this time. A simple thank you or toda. And again, this awareness that we're turning inward together. And you might extend and expand that sense of thankfulness to each of us here. Thank you for accompanying me. Toda. And you might begin to notice if there are any emotions that are visiting. Maybe there's joy or sadness. Maybe it's a flavor of anger. Maybe there's contentment. Could be an emotion that's hard to name. Letting it be known, held, seen, and resting back into the awareness that is knowing, holding, illuminating what's here in this moment. Compassionate awareness itself is here for us and supporting us. You might also notice if there is a thought pattern that's making itself known, or thinking that's happening, and letting whatever thinking, whatever thoughts may be visiting, letting them be known, held, seen as they visit and pass. Resting back into the awareness, the compassionate awareness that can know, hold, illuminate whatever is here in this moment. You might also be noticing sensations in the body of warmth or coolness, of tingling or pulsing, just like thoughts and emotions. These sensations, they can be known, they can be held, they can be seen moment by moment as we relax back into the awareness that can witness it all, that can hold it all. And so when a sensation, thought, an emotion, a sound makes itself known, the invitation for the next few minutes is to just let it be held, giving yourself permission to relax back into compassionate awareness. So we'll practice together in quiet for the next few minutes. And when your attention inevitably wanders, because that's just the nature of the mind, in that moment of mindful awareness, noticing, oh, this is the wandering mind. You might pause, recollect your attention, and again, resting back into the awareness, the compassionate witness that's here. in this last minute of practicing together in this sacred way. You might again rest a hand on the heart, hand on the belly, if that feels right. And again, honoring the choice to show up for yourself and for each of us. This is a deeply held Jewish value. Show up. May our practice together, may it help us remember, as Yitro reminds Moshe, that we can let compassionate awareness and the compassion of our community members support us moment by moment by moment. Whenever you're ready, at your own time and in your own pace, you might begin to wiggle fingers and toes, or open your eyes, or shift your gaze. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Alison, for that beautiful teaching and practice. And thank you, everyone, for your presence and your practice here today. We will now turn towards the mourner's Kaddish. So if there's anyone here who is observing a yortzeit, an anniversary of the passing of a loved one, or in a period of mourning, you can share the name of the person bring in the chat. And anyone who would like to recite the mourner's Kaddish is welcome to rise in body or spirit as we say these words together. Yitkadal,
Shalom, Aleinu via Kol Yisrael, via Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Imru. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Alison. And before we close, thank you again, Natalie, for sharing the link in the chat box to our website, where anyone who may be moved can make a donation in support of the work of IJS. We are so grateful for your support in whatever form it takes, and for all of you for helping to create this beautiful community of practice every day. It's really such a blessing. So for anyone who is leaving now, we wish you a Shabbat Shalom and hope to see you again on Monday at the same time. And anyone who would like to is welcome to stay on here for the next 15 minutes or so to ask Alison any questions that might have come up for you in today's teaching and practice, or to share your reflections on today's sit. So if you do have a question, you can just put it in the chat box, and please preempt your question with the word question in all caps so that we can make sure to catch it. So
such a treat to be here and to be in this space post sit and just really want to open it up if anyone wants to share what arose for you during that time or any specific questions. And also just want to honor, speaking of compassionate community, all that's been unfolding in the chat, just the ways in which you've been compassionately showing love to one another. So I'm seeing a question from Laura. And also, I've gotten a few really kind, welcoming notes saying, I'm also in Palo Alto. So just want to say thank you for the warm welcome. Um, the Baldwin quote, could I offer some reflections on Baldwin's words? Yeah, I'd be happy to. Laura, I'm curious if there's anything in particular that stood out to you about that quote. I'm also happy to give a more general reflection, but if there's anything in particular that really hit home with you, I'd be happy to comment more on that. Okay, I'm going to go for it. So when I come back to this quote, often the first thing I notice is how much armor I'm carrying. That there's this sense in 21st century life that we're meant to hide what truly matters to us, hide our light, speaking of James Baldwin's choice of words, that in order to make it through the day, the moment, the hour, we really need to muscle through in a way that doesn't allow for the joyous vulnerability of being a wholehearted, loving human being rather than a human doing. And I think what Baldwin is speaking to is that we really need each other to remember, oh, right. And I'm sorry, I got distracted by the chat for a moment, and I'm seeing so much beauty coming in and your own interpretations. And I'll just say that for me, it's a reminder that I can contribute to this brutal, some of you may know that phrase, brutal and beautiful in one word, brutal, this brutal world by remembering, oh, you also want to shine your light. It just might be obscured right now by all the armor you've needed to develop and carry. Oh, and it turns out me too. I also want to shine a light. Allow this heart of generosity, of care, of tenderness, of fierce compassion as well, to let itself be known, let itself be courageously seen. And I too have needed to armor up. And how can I be wise about when that armor may actually be necessary? And also, as much as is possible, engage, interact, show up from a place of not habitually, not from a place of autopilot, putting on that armor, and have more and more moments of the kind of authenticity, loving authenticity that's possible when we mirror and magnify each other's light. And so even in a Zoom room, one of the ways to do this is to just pick someone, anyone. They're not going to know you chose them. And to take a moment, maybe even bow in your own way, and just say to them silently, ah, may you shine your light, and may you heal, compassionately meet, have the support to work with whatever prevents that. Okay, so, oh yeah, Karen, the word is brutal, and I don't remember who, and I've seen it spelled in many different ways, but usually Brutaful. I don't remember who coined it, but just this recognition that we're living in moment by moment a world where everything coexists. And the practice really invites us to meet all of that richness with as much heart and wisdom as we can. Okay. Could we have a link to the Baldwin quote? In this moment, I can't remember which of his pieces it's from, but if you just put a line of it into Google, it'll show up. I'm just, okay. Yes, Gail, I agree. Authenticity seems to be the word of this time. We all need more of it. Yeah. If there are any other questions, feel free to place them in the chat. Have I missed any, Rebecca?
I don't think so. Somebody was asking if you could share more about the mindfulness retreat that you mentioned going on when you were a young adult. If you want to share anything more about what that retreat was.
Oh, yeah. So in my early 20s, and this had also been true as a teenager, I went through a really challenging period. And speaking of this quote, I was experiencing a lot of shame, a lot of anxiety, really questioning my own goodness and wondering what practices, people, resources would avail themselves to me, because there was this intuitive sense that there was another way of relating to life and also relating to my own internal world. And I had a very close friend from high school who had just gone on her first meditation retreat. And she said to me, Alison, let's just go on a retreat together. And there's this place in Northern California that's offering a young adult retreat, and it was called, and it still exists, Spirit Rock. And so I went on a huge, there were 100 participants, a huge young adult retreat at this Buddhist insight meditation center in Marin County. And actually, and I just would never have thought it would lead to where I am now, here with all of you, and that Rebecca and I and Kashira and Jess will actually be co-teaching a young adult retreat, a Jewish meditation retreat for young adults this summer in August in Northern California. So it feels like life is coming full circle, and just really want to express my deepest gratitude to you, Rebecca, for knowing how deep a need there is for this and making it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful to hear, Alison. I actually also, one of my very first silent meditation retreats was a young adult retreat at Spirit Rock, probably 12 or 13 years ago. So we share that.
I love that.
I actually have a question for you, Alison. I really felt like you were speaking directly to me today, and the theme that you brought forward from Michio around the weight that I'm sure many of us feel of what it really takes to be in leadership in these times, whether we're in leadership in our workspace, in our community, in our family, or even just in our own lives, like that inner leader within ourselves that I feel like I heard you speak to just in your reminder of the compassionate awareness that can really sit in that driver's seat to hold that kind of inner community of voices that we may feel. And I was just wondering if you could share a little bit more with us on just any advice, suggestions, or practices that you have to really make that shift from the space of disconnection, whether that's armor or just a sense of feeling kind of stuck in the weight of that responsibility and that, maybe sometimes aloneness that we can feel. And that to that space of connection and opening to others, to trust others, to see and be seen by others, to kind of let go of that weight and feel ourselves as part of that web. Yeah.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah. As someone who's a bit of an acronym nerd, I'd love to offer one or two that might be supportive. And you mentioned the word trust, and it's interesting that right as you started posing this question, what immediately came up for me was, how do we learn how to wisely trust each other and grow in trustworthiness ourselves? Because at least in my own journey, this ability to mirror and magnify each other's light is in part a result of growing in self-trust and growing in our capacity to extend trust and trustworthiness to others. And so I love Brene Brown's research, and specifically her acronym BRAVING, and also the ways in which it maps on to many aspects of Jewish wisdom. I'm just going to put this acronym in the chat. Researcher, writer, therapist, Brene Brown. She says that trust is braving connection with other human beings. Braving connection with other human beings. And as she began studying trust, what became illuminated is that there are actually 7 interrelated components of trust. And each of us has aspects of trust and growing in trustworthiness that are our strengths, and others may be more areas of growth, and in some cases, both. And so the B is boundaries, learning how to set healthy boundaries that allow us to both trust ourselves and develop trustworthy, trust-filled relationships with others. The second is reliability. I'm going to move through the first few quite quickly because I think actually the ones at the end really speak to what you're naming. Reliability. The third is amends. Part of connection is being able to express that we're sorry for something, able to apologize. V is vault, confidentiality, the wisdom to know when this is not something I should share with others. The I, and I just want to say, if you Google this, so much will come up around it. It's really helpful. But the I is integrity, and the N and the G are quite surprising. The N is non-judgment, and the G is generosity. And one of the pieces of this acronym that Brene really underscores is that we can offer generous interpretations to other people's behavior and also to our own. Oh, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. Oh, oh, sweetheart, you were really tired. Oh, you didn't have a chance to ground because you were running from this thing to the next thing. You were trying your best. And as we say in Judaism, and you missed the mark. And guess what? You can come back. You can apologize if need be, or you can even just let it go. What if it's about connection, not perfection? And what does it look like to orient towards ourselves and each other with greater generosity, with perhaps a suspending of judgment for a moment, and bringing this open, curious, kind awareness of mindfulness to the moments of our lives when we miss the mark, to moments when others miss the mark? What does it look like to soften a bit? And how does that change how other people respond to us? Yeah, that's in our Mishnah too. Exactly. Never attribute to malice. I love this. What can be explained by stupidity or rapidity or whatever may be going on? Okay, I'm seeing the time and I'm wondering, Rebecca, if this is a good time to say Shabbat Shalom, to, as Deborah offers, wish everyone safety, health, well-being. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alison, for all of this beautiful, much needed wisdom and the teachings and practice that you brought to us today. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. And just as we close out, Alison, I also want to just open up some space if you want to just share a word about the upcoming offerings that you have, just in case folks want to be in connection with you or practice with you in some of those.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I totally forgot about that. So I'm putting in the chat, as you may have sensed, I am particularly passionate, some would even say obsessed, with how to cultivate self-compassion and the inextricable link between self-compassion and compassion for others. And what does it look like to include ourselves in this web of compassion and compassionate action? And so there's a course coming up. It starts March 4th. You can learn more about it at the link. And also, I send a newsletter once or twice a month with reflections on mindfulness in daily life and also with information about upcoming offerings. And I just want to say, one or two people mentioned in the chat, you might want to share the information about the upcoming retreat, the young adult retreat in August with your children. And Rebecca, that information will be coming soon, right?
Yes. So here, just one second. The registration is opening soon. If you or your child is signed up for the Shevet Jewish Mindfulness Community for Young Adults listserv, they'll be the first to find out. It's also going to be in our IJS newsletters. But here's the link to sign up for that Shevet listserv. Just one moment. This is for folks in their 20s and 30s-ish. So folks who identify with that kind of young adult phase of life. And information will be coming soon. It'll be in August in California. All right. Thank you so much, Alison. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Natalie, and Shabbat Shalom to all. See you Monday.